like run a timer here for you?
No.
Yeah.
Good? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ellen Hartstack. I've worked for both private and public sectors, doing anything from computer forensics. Now I'm the Splunk admin, and I've worked with this guy for just over a year.
Hi, I'm Matt Sullivan. I'm actually a pen tester who completely and totally fell into this type of stuff. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was like, oh man, I really want to make my logs a little bit better, a little bit more just easier to ingest, and actually be able to use some of that data. And then I've like never gotten out of that pit. So it's a lot of fun to try to get into this type of stuff. I'm going to warn you that's going to suck you in forever, because once you see like, oh, I can make that a little bit better, I can fix this a little bit. That's a really neat thing. So I hope you all learned something new today, and then have actually something that's really actionable you can take right back to your organizations and really help them improve this data things. All right, so I have a quick question, a quick poll for all of you here. We're going to do some audience participation first. How many of you guys use any sort of log management tool other than just syslog or liberal uses of grep? Excellent! I'm glad to see that. That is far more than I was actually expecting. How many of you guys only use your log data to fix problems and you do not touch it otherwise? Problems or investigations, that's the only reason you use your log data. Yeah, be honest, be honest. Awesome. So how many of you guys use your log data to proactively optimize your experience for your customers or your users? Things like that. All right, all right. So, not a lot of people on that last one. Why is that? And I mean that honestly. Yell it out. Does anyone? Yes? We don't care about the user experience. Harsh.
Which user are you talking about? The user of the log management or the general user public?
Your actual general users. So if you're running an IT shop and you're running internal tools, maybe it's those users are the users of your tools. Maybe if you're like us, we have a software company that makes software for people to use. They pay us to use it, right? One of those types of situations.
Not a lot of time. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Not a lot of time. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Yep, definitely. Yes?
This is a security conference. It's not really our focus. I mean,
no, security conference, not your focus.
Oh, it will be.
So that's one of the things that I think is really interesting, right? Like I said, I'm a pen tester. I was hired as a pen tester. That's what I do. But from a little bit of a sysadmin background. And I actually, once you do start getting into this stuff, you realize that the security benefit of having really good, really understandable log data is so much more valuable. And then, of course, then you get to go off to everyone else in your company and be like, look what I did. And they're like, wow, think of all these things that we can do now that we have the data to be able to achieve. So that's one of the things that's really cool is like security very rarely gets to be the people who are helping enable the org to really do awesome stuff and move forward. Usually we're the no guys, right? No, reject, right? And so it's really nice to be able to go up and say, actually I have something I think can benefit all of us, which is, I think, one of the best things we can do for our industry. So, all right. So, we're going to go into a little bit of the pitfalls of log management. And then the presentation is pretty much going to be like this. We're going to start with slides and stuff like that. We're going to start peppering in a little demos, and then we're going to do mostly demos at the end. So, the presentation experience will go from great to as our demos inevitably fail, right? So, also, lots of hand gestures. You'll see that Ellen is reserved. I smack her in the face on accident. So, blindly logging everything is useless. Absolutely useless. Too much data and no meaning. So you have to kind of either make sense of your data or don't even bother spending the time to process it or collect it, right? So here's a couple of examples. Do you log everything? Do I want to support log line messages that are, like millions of characters long, right? Probably not. You probably actually wanted to break that out into multiple messages or something like that. An entire meg by blob of log messages has no context, probably no meaning. Do you have too many? If a message logs, every second that something, database connection failing, how many millions of those are you going to get in the span of, maybe a second, or maybe you're doing it every time the CPU ticks? Who knows? These types of things are very going to kind of quickly overwhelm. And all of us from a security background, I would like to imagine you get automated alerts about things in your environment, right? man, you look at every single one of those and you're like, I'm super jazzed to go through my 50 alerts right now. I know you all are. I always am. Well, as you can imagine, anybody who's on the operations side or on the development side, they feel the exact same way. They don't want to just be blown away with information that doesn't have any meaning for them. So every time an error is raised in production, a lot of times as a company starts on a small system, they're like, oh, I don't know, just like email me when an error happens. And that's fine when you have a couple of users of your system. But before you know it, oh, the company wants you to be using this, everywhere, and all these employees are going to get on it and use this awesome thing you built. Well, suddenly you're getting 1,000 emails an hour, and you're like, maybe I'm just going to Gmail filter that out. And that's unfortunately not something that we want to be doing. Now, your off-the-shelf software probably has more great info that you're not even logging, and we're going to get into some of those examples here in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and, though, for a moment, pass it over to Ellen, who's going to talk about some of the key features. Nope, it's still me.
Yep.
I practiced super lots.
There's an M right
there.
The M
on the slide. All right, so regardless of the logging system you're using, the product you're using to look at the logs, I implore you to think about the feature set of that because it's one of the most important decisions you're going to make. For instance, you're going to need to know, the who's, the what's, the where's, the when's, and then, of course, a description or context around it. Now, you might be saying to yourself, okay, well, a simple syslog dump is good enough for that. But is it meaningful, right? Is it parsable? Is it understandable? And it's actually really important because a lot of the times, what are your log messages? If your log messages are hit in all caps, or critical error, error, if you're Microsoft, all of these types of things, they're not really useful to us. And so, we as security people also have to encourage our ops teams and our development teams. We need meaningful log data to do our jobs because there's a big difference between somebody getting 1,000 authorization issues because they were hammering the login page on the app versus 1,000 authorization issues because somebody accidentally commented out the line that routes someone to the login page when they're supposed to go there, right? And so there's a huge difference in that. We have to have that context as well, which is why it's really, really important.
Now
I can step back.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit. Some of these are kind of basic, but I think when you're thinking about questions you want to ask about your data.
Have him move to that side.
Oh, absolutely.
No,
You're running the slides now.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, cool. Okay, so some of this is a little basic, but it's just to sort of get you thinking about what types of questions you want to ask about your data. Cool, so the first one is all sort of alerting starts with a question. You have some question that you want to get answered. And you want to make sure that this question is a good question. So sometimes, let's say you're interested in how many error level issues you have in a product per hour. You're thinking, that's a pretty good issue, that's a good question. I'll figure out what I need to do with that. And initially this seems like something that would be valuable, but think about it more scaled. So if you have, is 10 errors an hour good? I don't know, what if it's 100? It all depends. You need some more context around that type of question. I'll take it. So if you have no background around that type of question, you can't really get a lot out of it. So we need to narrow down our scope a bit so that we can get more information from that type of question. So, for instance, is there an upward trend in a specific type of error that maybe is occurring over some sort of threshold? So say it upward trends over 20% what we normally get in the last hour for, say, 10% of our customers. That's useful. We can get a lot of information. That's a very specific alert that we can act upon. So be specific, be direct. Oh, yeah, you put this up here, so that'd be awkward. Cool. Okay, so that was that. Now we're on to thresholds. So we can make this alert even smarter by utilizing those trending or sort of threshold type questions. So trending can be super... Thanks.
Oh, sorry.
That's too many. No, it's all good. I'll just put them all there. So trending can be super useful in logging. Simply knowing if something has happened isn't really useful, but seeing how it relates to how it has happened in the past is. So, for instance, if you're looking at failed password attempts, if you have some sort of arbitrary threshold, if someone logs in more than 10 times, right? But then you have Bob over in accounting, who every morning fat fingers his password 10 times before he remembers what it is. So you're going to get that every morning, yep, Bob's here again today, that's cool. So that's not really useful, but if you know that Bob always fat fingers his password in the morning, you can add that threshold to the alert and not get so many false positives. Nope. Yeah. Cool, so frequency. This is one that comes up a lot in my job. Everyone wants their alerts now. The instant they happen, we need to know about it. And this isn't really always true. Like sometimes you can wait a bit before you know about it. And there's like three sort of things you want to look at. First of all, how severe is the issue? Like, is it just Bob fat-fingered his password one time this morning? And I don't know. Or like this random IP has fat-fingered the password 100 times in a second. Oh, that's probably more severe. And the second thing is you want to look at how actionable is this type of alert. So if you get that alert that says, oh, this guy has fat-fingered his password 100 times in the last minute, are you just going to be like, that's probably bad? Yep, super bad, right? Like, you need to have some sort of plan to act on those alerts, because otherwise you just get it, and then there's that, like, same panic period that happens afterwards until you fix the problem. And then the next one comes in, and there's the panic thing, and then, you fix the problem. And the third thing, so maybe you could wait. If you don't really have a concrete, actionable plan, maybe if it just checks once an hour, then you have another hour to fix the problem before the next batch comes in. And the third one is that, oops, I must have bumped it. Anyway, so how often? So if you want a log every time someone fat fingers their passwords, do you want like a batch of them maybe? You have to think about how often you want that email or chat alert or however you get your alerts to ping you to fix it. So you have to balance this sort of frequency, otherwise you get either too many alerts that you're just like, filter, trash, right? Or you're just overwhelmed by like, you open up your email in the morning, there's like 1,000, and you start at the 1, and then by the end of the day, you're like, there's the next 1,000, and you just close the laptop, go home, right? So you gotta sort of balance that out. This button. So that's sort of what I was talking about, like this noise balancing act. You gotta sort of, too frequent, and you start to become sort of like desensitized to them, or too many false positives. You're like, oh, that one always goes off at the top of the hour. And you're like, that's why? Why does it always go off? So you start ignoring those types of real risks because you get desensitized to the thing that keeps happening over and over and over and over again. Cool, so now we're going to talk a little bit about log management systems. So first of all, everyone always asks, like, well, what's the best tool? I don't care. Whatever tool your company uses, that's great. It seems to be like this growing trend of like having the bestest log solution. Whichever one works for your company, use that. So there's some things though that you do need to consider about when you're looking at, like if you're going to get a new one, or you want to your review has come up and you want to see, do I want to pay $1 bazillion to renew this? There's some things that I think you should consider about the different log type systems to see which one would be the best fit. I clicked. Thanks. Okay. So the first one is ingestion. You want this to be easy. If I want to add a new type of log or a new type of source type, material type thing, I want that to be real simple. I don't want to have to like write a huge, complicated config to get my syslog data to go in. I want something that's very simple to get in new data. The next thing is sort of a nice to have is the native parsing. So if I format, like we're going to talk about here in a little bit, all my logs in JSON, that's real convenient if the tool I use already has a JSON parser. Or things that like auto-extract fields. If you have like something equals something, it realizes that the first something is the field and the second something is the value. You don't have to like custom code all your fun regex to get that to get sucked out. The next thing you think about is the efficiency of that tool. If you're going to be looking at trending over a year, you're going to really want to make sure that your log system is capable of doing that. Like if it takes 20 minutes to look at all your data over a year, that's probably not the best thing. But maybe if your company is only looking at smaller ranges, every hour, every 24 hours, that might be a product that would work for you. And the last thing is my favorite, is visualization of data. You want to make sure that it's not just like something happened and that's all you can get, because we as humans, we like pictures, we like visual things. It's easy to pick things out of pictures to understand them. So you want to make sure that whatever logging system you have something that's capable of doing like alerts or a PDF report that you can email to like your head person or your head boss man or whatever. And then as well as having some sort of dashboard or interactivity that you can interact with that product. So for our company, we use Splunk. That's what our demos are going to be based on. You guys can use whatever you'd like, but that's the one we have. Okay, I'll eat it, buddy.
Cool. I have to try to remember to do
Yeah, you got like 2 miles.
That's a good time. All right, so we have a theme here, which you might be noticing, is that we like nice log data, right? So let's talk about structuring that data a little bit. And Ellen alluded to this already. Oh, the mouse wheels are super nice. change that. So if you have JSON as log data, it's really nice to not be beholden to any sort of fixed format. You know, think about your Apache common logs, right? It's this like timestamp field, you got URI you're hitting, you might have the response size, if I recall correctly, the HTTP status. Okay, well, what if I wanted another field on that? Okay, well, you can go into make a custom log, or you can drop in the tokens you want. And God help you that your log management solution actually sucks that in and has any clue what you're talking about. Oh, yeah, I can go do that. I just have to write this custom little parser that says, oh, this field is this value. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I have literally 1,000 different things I could do with my job that would be more fun than that, right? So instead, what I would recommend doing is then JSON, right? Because JSON is obviously not going to behold you to any sort of formatting. If you just have the field and have the value there, hopefully your log management tool will allow that to be sucked in. Additional context, in my opinion, is one of the most important aspects of debugging. Think about your log message from an application that's throwing a stack trace, right? Think about your big, bloated Java middleware app that you have to run. And every once in a while, it goes blurg all over your server. And you think to yourself, man, if I just had like a few extra pieces of information in this log data, it would really make everything better. But the thing is that people are always inclined to do that, right? When you have your homebrew applications, people are taking the log message field and stuffing a bunch of things into that. Like this user on this account with this email address had this thing happen. Well, then you're going to have to write this nasty regex to get all that pulled out, right? Well, actually, the fun thing is most platforms will actually allow you to add additional fields for your logging. When you're taking those in with JSON, all of a sudden, that can be a key value pair in your logging system. We're actually going to take a look at an example of that in a little bit. Other thing that's good to remember is that all good data analysis tools love JSON. In fact, a lot of them, that would be their preferred format. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Now, finally, if you need any sort of custom or internal tooling, may I recommend JSON? Yes, I'm a fanboy. But it's true, really. JSON can pretty much make your life move from a kind of living hell into something that's like, wow, I actually have standards and recommendations. And you can go to every team at your company and say, if you're putting out log data, just put it out as JSON. And, you know, everyone can be responsible for getting that standardized, and then it's just easy to suck in. You don't have to worry about, is the system even logging or not? I don't know. Did it break? You have an answer immediately. All right, so let's talk about making some in-house applications. Like I said, Ellen and I are from a web application shop, a software as a service. And so what we do is we primarily make in-house applications that we sell, right? And so as you can imagine, there's a lot of log data that we generate, and it can be somewhat overwhelming. So what we're going to take a look at is just an example with Python. And this is a absolutely applicable example to pretty much any programming language that you could imagine. So Python has a robust logging system, and all we need to do is to add some formatting around that logging system to make it output as JSON. Now, the thing that we've got going for us is that in Python 2 and Python 3, there are already existing log formatters. It's quite literally plug and play. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that might look like. That is super zoomed. All right, here's that. So here's a Python exception that took place a little bit earlier. Here we go. That's the good stuff right there. So, of course, in Python, when you throw an exception, right, it's going to throw the stack with a bunch of new lines in between it. And your default log management system, unless taught how to understand stack traces, is going to do this beautiful thing to it. It's going to say there was an exception, and it's going to do that thing where it just said don't make horrible generic messages. It's going to do that. And then it's going to do all of this nasty awfulness, which is going to be completely useless to you. There's absolutely nothing you can do with that information. So, okay, well, there's that. But let's go ahead and take a look at the after. I just simply plug in one of those logging libraries I was just talking about. Oh, that looks pretty. And all of a sudden you have all of these fields. Now, the fun thing about this is that I didn't have to do any of this formatting. Python's, again, very robust logger, automatically can do things like telling me the line number, the level number. The level number is kind of interesting. Level 10 is debug, level 20 info, level 30 warning. And so the thing that's really nice is that you can just set up a thing that says if that level was above, 40 or something like that, go ahead and alert me. And again, this is not anything new. You've always been able to do this with any utility that can read in these types of logs. But again, you have to either find a product that already do it or teach it to do it. And that's the thing that really sucks. And then we can even extend it a little bit. In this example, you can see that when this error occurs, I've actually gone in and just added the user agent string to our log message. And you might think, okay, well, is that any value to you? Well, It depends on your context. But what we're going to do instead is to actually show you an application that we wrote in-house for some of our security stuff at my company, and then how we're using this data to really extend it and make really powerful decisions. And make sure that, okay, perfect. There we go. These Gigantosaurus logs are for a product called Aviary. Aviary is a rather neat platform that my team members up here in the front row have been working on for some time. And in fact, it's a security scanner that we wrote to solve some of the problems that we had in-house. Hopefully there will be a talk about it in the future. It's a rather neat thing. But what we have is a Python application that's, once again, utilizing all of this logging. But the thing that's really nice is that we have a ton of context. This particular item is invoked by GitHub. So a GitHub webhook hits our server, and then we action upon it. Now, you can see we have the webhook delivery ID. That's kind of useful, because if I want to see what all went on with this particular webhook, this one call to our server that started the whole chain of events, I can just click that field, add it to the search, and away I go. I don't need to type it. I don't need to figure out like the exact times it all happened. I already have a unique ID for this action. Now, the fun thing that we can do is kind of ask a lot of really interesting questions. For instance, the log data I'm showing you here was collected over a period of about 20 hours, just short of 24 hours. And so I just had a tiny little question, and I said, well, okay, given that information, it ran over about 20 hours, but how long did it actually run? Like, in terms of CPU time, how long did we take resources up on a server? And that's kind of easy to do, actually, because we can say, by a webhook delivery ID, and there's going to be one unique ID per run of this application, go ahead and evaluate the first and last event's times, get the duration between them, and then let's go ahead and just take a look at the total sum of that. And I can see immediately 352 seconds. So it would strike me that our servers might be over-provisioned a little bit for the amount of runtime that we had on the utility. Not really, it actually needs to do quite a bit of processing when it's kicked off. But again, that's just one of probably 1,000 different things that you could do with this log data. Another real-world case was a situation in which we were actually encountering a race condition. And we were able to figure out what was going on because every single log message that we have automatically has included the thread's ID. And we were able to see how many unique threads were running in this span of time where we saw this interesting issue. And we were able to immediately identify that, yes, we had multiple threads running at the same time that then collided on a file write, which was an incredibly invaluable thing because it only happened once every very, very so often. So those types of information that you can use to really actually hone in on not only application issues, but again, think about all the context you can have in your logs for your internal apps, the user who was using it, what they might have been doing, what area they were doing, what URL were they hitting. All of those types of things can be baked into your messages. All right. And again, Ellen was talking about some of the dashboard stuff. This is something that we actually think is really useful for our products here. Our team works in a sprint of 2 weeks. So we do 2 weeks of work and we kind of reflect back and see what's going on. And it's really awesome to be able to take our runtime logs, just our standard product logs, and be able to produce a big dashboard of all the things that we did and the information that we gathered. Think about this for your security side of things, right? Imagine being able to take this dashboard and just make it display how awesome your team was in the past week or two in a nice high-level overview. I think normally we get somewhat caught up in dashboarding all these crazy things that nobody cares about. But if you had log data from some of your other systems, couldn't that actually make a really interesting story? You could talk about the standard user flow through your applications, and maybe when somebody deviates from that, have you looked into that event? Is that something that you would care about? Those types of things are really interesting to dashboard as well. All right. Let's talk about old services and new tricks. So I've been very heavy on, oh yeah, you write your own stuff. But the thing is, most of you probably aren't writing your own stuff, and I recognize that. How many of you guys actually have really no custom in-house apps that you are responsible for worrying about or touching in any way, shape, or form? Okay. Well, I have to admit I missed the estimate on that one, but that's all right. So let's talk about your existing services. If you aren't JSONifying your web server logs, then you are doing yourself a huge disservice. This is probably one of the first things I would recommend that you go do. And all of the examples that we're going to be giving here on the slides are copy and pastable directly into your config files. So again, make sure you grab that slide deck and use it, and I'll get the slide deck URL back up at the end of the talk. So here's JSONs, for example, and I want you to notice the same variable names. For instance, remote address is filled in by this variable right here that says remote adder, right? So that's great. Make sure you really get your fill of that, because we're about to see some other products that are terrible about this and aren't sane in the least. Looking at you, Apache. So unfortunately, if you want to make Apache log JSON, it's certainly possible, but your fields get a little wonky on you. All of a sudden, you're doing these % greater than S's and all this fun stuff. Reading through the demand pages for these types of things can be a little bit challenging, but thankfully there's a lot of blog posts out there. Feel free to go ahead and look some of those up, and then you can have that. Now, I want to go ahead and just demonstrate what that looks like. Think about all of the times, though, where somebody's asking you, man, it feels like the web server is running super slow today. It feels like we're just really, kind of being taxed more than usual. Do you know what's going on? That type of stuff used to happen to me all the time when I was a sysadmin. And so one of the things that's really nice to be able to have is just to be able to look at a request URI and look at things like the number of bytes that you're sending. And one of the things I always add is my gzip ratios. It's actually really fascinating to take a look at how much compression you're getting in and out of those web servers, especially if they're taxed pretty often. The other thing you can do is add a number of other fields. In Nginx, for example, you can define custom fields all over the place, and you could actually write those out to your log statements. One of the things that you can do if your application isn't one that requires secure logins is actually write out cookie data. Like I said, you'd have to be incredibly careful with that because you wouldn't want to ever do that on an application where logins were possible. But if you did write out cookie data on an anonymous application, and then you set a unique cookie per user, you automatically will know one user's traffic from end to end of your application without having to do any sort of crazy Google Analytics nonsense or anything like that. Your log data could tell the entire story from start to end. Is that a capability that you probably have in-house right now? My guess is no. But the tooling to be able to do that is sitting in front of you right now. Yeah. Hello, world. That was a demo that I went ahead and skipped over. All right. So, we can even also do this with Squid. Now, the one that's kind of funny about Squid is I thought, I'll give another example and I'll use MySQL server. Nope, can't do it in MySQL. Lame. I said, okay, what about the Squid proxy? And unfortunately, I actually couldn't find any documentation as to whether or not you could do it in Squid. So I think I'm the person who's written the first JSON config to be able to do it, and at least published it anywhere. So for all of you who have solved this before and didn't put out your results, I hate you. Because it could have saved me hours. But if you use a Squid proxy or some other proxying mechanism, really nice to have your access logs put out as a JSON blob. And we're going to kind of go over an example as why that's useful here in a second. And again, these slides, you can copy and paste these configs, they'll work out of the box. All right, so with that, Ellen is going to go through a little bit of a story with you all. I give you the mouse.
Oh, thank you. Cool, so this is our little made-up fun story that we went through to give...
What are you doing?
I bumped the mouse.
Yeah, the mouse wheel scrolls.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really sensitive.
That's not...
And we see what you did there with the mouse graphic.
Yeah, it's the best text ever. Okay, so this is our initial setup. We came up with this little scenario just to illustrate the sort of, talk about how we're going to build our alerts and sort of look at this issue as it happened. What? You're screwing me up, man. Okay, so here's the setup of our little scenario. So it's an evening shift, little bitty tiny shop. They got 3 employees on call, and their internet connection just dies. They can't load pages. They're having pages that do load take minutes, like CNN. You're just waiting. And the issue lasts about 30 minutes or so. So they submit, some sort of ticket for our team to look into. And we have 3 employees on call: Eric, myself, and Jeff are the names of them. Cool. There, now it's you, buddy. Yeah, this is you.
So I was trying to hand signal to her, which wasn't going well. Is that this is actually sort of based off of a real world scenario. Back again in my sysadmin days, we had a Squid proxy that we used, and it would get taxed all of the time, and people would be like, "Figure out who's killing the proxy." And we were a small shop; we had 25 employees. We don't have the big budget stuff. All right, so let me scroll over to this one here. Okay, so the question is, figure out who is abusing the Squid proxy. Now, there's a couple ways we can do this, and of course, like any good sysadmin, I'm going to take the most reliable way, which is just grepping furiously and hoping for the best. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to do...
See that laptop?
Yeah, it's going to be fine. I don't know why people get so worried about laptops falling. No. Don't you trust me? That's definitely one of them. All right. Cool. So what do I do here? I get into my Squid, my beautiful Squid access.log file. All right. So, it's horrible.
I feel your pain.
The humanity, right? So this is clearly not going to be something that is very beneficial. I can go ahead and see okay, let's see how much my user Marcus used. Okay, a couple matches. I don't know. Maybe it's Marcus. Who knows, right? So then, if you're me and you're kind of a junior sysadmin, you don't know what you're doing. You're like, well, I know. I'm smart. Yes.
Are you using a module for authentication? Is that how you mark it?
In this particular one, I'm just using basic auth. Yeah, but normally I would hope your authentication is set up to your proxy using an AD configuration or something like that.
Yeah, just because it was in the log. So
Yep. It's being logged because the user is authenticated through basic auth. Good catch. Yes, normally Squid will not tell you your authentication stuff unless you have user logins required. All right, so what I did as a junior sysadmin then is said, okay, well, I'm smart. I know that there's this tool called iftop, right? And I can see all the connections to and from the server. Well, the problem is, if you run iftop, it's only a window in time, right? And I, on a pretty regular basis, would fingerprint the wrong person. And so, it's definitely you, Marcus. I can see that a bunch of activity to your computer's IP just went through the line, and you're screwing us over. And it's I was just watching a YouTube video real quick, and I closed it. And you're like, oh man, I feel horrible now. You have to have that overall time series, right? And again, if you're using open source utilities as a small shop, really hard to do that. So instead, we come up with a better solution. And of course, as you might imagine, that solution is logging those Squid logs in JSON that we showed earlier. Ellen's going to go ahead and show now what the investigation looks like on her end when you're not just grepping through log files and praying, right? Of course, I was using Vim the entire time, didn't actually do a grep wc-l, but you get the idea. All right. Ellen, take it away. Grep around the Squid log. Yeah. Our speaker comments to me are great. Grep around the Squid logs like a lameoid. Her comments are actually organized and good, and mine are just I don't know, do the stuff with the thing on it. What's happening here? Actually, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Yep, perfect.
Stop helping. Great. No, I want to hear. I'm going to hold it. Cool.
You're afraid of me knocking it off.
Yeah, that's because it was it's fine. No. Okay, so I'm going to do two versions of a different dashboard. So the first one is asking that same type of thing we would be looking for in grep. Who is issuing the most requests, the most GET requests. So I did this fun little dashboard thing. Oh. That was sad. I can have. No, I'm just prepping, see? That's how, How terrible is this? Oh, it's pretty decent. Okay, so I changed my mind. Okay, so we had our little ticket that was submitted this morning. This is the worst part about Splunk. Why no time picker? So it's from 2:30 to 3. Wait. Go. Anything, wait. Okay, so it worked. So user with the most requests, these are all powered by, I don't want to do a whole Splunk thing, but they're all powered by a search, which is basically just sort of like that grep or the search Matt showed you earlier, where you're just summing up the total of requests per user, is how that search is written. The other thing is you can pull in tons of fun things. So we have a department list for that user, so we can pull in what department they're in. So if you see something like, oh, this Eric guy who works for the janitor staff, and you're like, why is he sucking down all the internet? Do you do things? So now we're going to look at some things about trending data. So this is a time graph over the time of the instance, so 2:30 in the morning to 3. And we got our 3 users here. You can hover over, so this Jeff dude was sort of active and then went crazy and then got better. And then Eric is sort of all over the board, and then myself is sort of more normal user is. And then also you want to think about your alerts is when you're dealing with thresholds. So here I was looking at, we didn't have a large sample set to choose from. It was a very narrow window of time. So it's not the best example, but it works for what we want to talk about.
Shh, make it until you make it.
That's what I'm doing. Okay, so here we have our 3 users, and over this window of time in which we captured that data, they had 2 requests per this period of time, and the upper bound for me was 7. And then you have a current usage. So you take that trended data that you've already pre-calculated, and you append to it the information about how that user is currently using it. So here I was using 20%, and it looks like I was 3% over what I normally do. And then you can have a fun thing for your alert, says like, is this user within threshold or not within the threshold that you have set? So then I just like filter this all out and like tell me all the users who are exceeding their traditional threshold. And then down here at the bottom, I picked the top 10 since this Eric dude is our offender, according to this. I picked his top 10 URL based on response size. So these are the things he was loading, which to me, it doesn't look very useful to me. So we went ahead and we did it based off of oh, you did. Okay, cool. So then we did a second version, which was to look at who's consuming the majority of the bandwidth, so who has the largest response time or response size to those types of requests. So we redid that dashboard with a similar, we narrowed down our scope a bit, because we don't just want to know who is sending out the most requests, we want to know who's sending out, who's getting the most amount of data back. This one, cool. So again, we did the terrible thing. As someone who does dashboard all the time, this drives me crazy.
Well, she sets that up too. Think about all the things that your Squid proxy might know. Not only things like response sizes, but even request sizes. Do you have somebody taking data out of your organization? If you're a locked down organization, you probably restrict, hopefully, access to the internet through at least a proxy or a transparent proxy. Think of all the information that you have there about user behavior, potentially malware behavior, that you could potentially be actioning on. A great example, if you're a little more advanced, maybe you're taking your badge logs, your badge data, piping those into the same system, and then why not take a look and see, Dave isn't even here today. There was no badge on his computer. Why the hell is there data heading out of his computer right now? Things like that, right? We security people, we get caught up on all these crazy things that we can do to like figure out where the traffic's going and what it's doing. And it might be as simple as, there's nobody sitting at that desk. That's kind of weird, right? So kind of be thinking about that too. It's a little bit of a paradigm shift when you think about the data in a larger context. All right, I'm out.
Cool. Tag team. Okay, so we got same time range. Okay, and this time we came up with a different person if you're looking at size of request. So we have this Jeff guy from sales. Now the funny thing, if you're looking at request size, here's our same time chart. Careful scrolling. And the funny thing is like, these users, we can't even see them because Jeff's is so astronomically large compared to the others. So this one, like, right away, I can tell from the chart, it's like, it's this guy. Like, that's why, like, visualization is awesome that way. It's like, I don't need to, like, do all this complicated math thing. I can just look at this and be like, Jeff, it's that guy. So we did the same sort of thing with the trending over threshold. So we have upper and lower bounds here set for each user and the percentage over. So we have, like, lack of commas, 754 million requests when his normal usage is much less than that. And then you can look down here to see what his top 10 URLs he's requesting, and it seems like he's just downloading all the things. All the movies, he is downloading them, which would be an explanation of why the response size is so big. So, well, that's a fun little example. I will say, too, that I, as a Splunk admin, get extreme value of using, like, Splunk on Splunk, so looking like the little meta crazy thing, inceptioning. And you look at the data about your Splunk users to help them do Splunk better. So I have this fantastic, fun dashboard, which I sadly can't show. But it does, when I give training classes to some of our employees, like, here's how you can use Splunk to make your logs less terrible or better or get more information out of them. And you can actually pull up by users, and I can see get information about the types of searches they're looking for. So I can get things like, this person tends to use, like, search and table. Those are the commands they use. So I'm going to go real low level on the stuff we're going to talk about, because I know they don't have a lot of experience. Because if I pull up, like, Matt, it's like 37 unique commands. Like, he's probably pretty good. We can go higher level and show him some of the cooler, like, fun JSON things and other XML stuff you can do in Splunk. And so it's really useful for me as a Splunk admin to have that like capability to look at your own product's tools in the product. So that was my little side note talk. No, go back.
Okay. Time for a question on this?
Sure.
So how, and maybe I missed this early in the talk, but how are you getting this Squid logs counted into JSON? and into Splunk.
Here, you can go. You're next anyway. Your laptop's slowly sliding off.
That's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah, super, super easy. And of course, again, we use Splunk at our company. You could use whatever you want to use, right? But all we're doing is going in here, and I just went into my Splunk.com or my Squid.com, and you can just there's a commented out field in the whole giant config file that talks about log format, and you can just add a new log format, and you give it a custom name. So mine is called Squid JSON, and then everything after the first space, after the name of the log format, is just going to be the output to a line. When Squid writes something out, and then it's going to do replacements of these percentage, time and GMT, things like that.
This is in Squid.conf.
Yeah, Squid.com
Oh,
is where
okay.
we define this. And then, one second. And then once you write out that log, then there's a number of different ways to transport it to your product. So for Splunk, you'd use a universal forwarder. For like an elk stack product, I believe it's Kibana, I think they would ingest this with. I can't remember for sure. Things like that. Every vendor who tries to sell you something has something that they'll want you to install on the box, or if it's open source, install on the box, and get those logs up. And then you had a question as well.
Yeah, your JSON, is it in order of the declarations in the Squid.conf file? Like if the first declaration is timestamped, you have to have a timestamp there. Second is remote address, you have to have a remote address there.
Absolutely. So his question was, does the order that you're showing these in terms of key value, do they matter? Do they have to be in those fields? Yes, they would. Because what I'm doing, which is kind of gross, admittedly, like I said, anything after the first space here, after I've declared what the name of this custom log formatter is just it outputting like the actual value, like the ASCII value out to my log file. So that open bracket doesn't mean anything to Squid. It's literally the definition, the beginning first character of a JSON log, right? And so then you have to use double quotes in JSON. So I say timestamp : and then you have to use another double quotes for the value, and then that's when you can start putting in your tokens that then Squid will do a string replace on as it makes those log data come out. Does that make a little more sense, hopefully? Awesome. Does anyone else have any other questions about that stuff? All right. Forward a little bit. All right. So, if you're like Homer here and you just kind of woke up in the back or whatever, that's fine. The major points. The TLDR. JSON's good. Use JSON. JSON. I actually hate when people say JSON. JSON is good. Use JSON. If you're not taking in your logs in something, even go get Elk. There's an Elk stack is open source, right? There are just pre-built VMs, pre-built Amazon images. Go get it. Go set it up. It'll save your life. If you are ever finding yourself repping through a log file, ever for any reason, figure out how can I make this log more ingestible, better. How can I make it JSON, and then try to use it to better not only just your organization, but even your own security posture. And again, like I said, it's kind of weird because this is kind of almost an operations thing, and like a data thing, yet I'm involved right off of my team. It's because the yields of having good, reliable data was so high, that it has continued to be worth my time to work on and look at.
The amount of wasted time he had to dig through things and ask this person for the thing and get that and put it in whatever format he needs. So he has immensely benefited from that. I don't know if you have other.
Yeah, I was just going to say, specifically alone, think about your servers, and maybe you're a bigger shop and you've got a bigger IT shop, and you've got all these people who are admins on various platforms and servers, right? So what do? On our Windows and on our Linux systems, we pull in those security logs, those auto logs that talk about having a user be added or anything like that. And then we just constantly are this person, like I said, we actually have all of our people and all of our departments already loaded into Splunk. That person who's in this department got added to this server, which is tagged with this tag that says that it's actually not part of that department, and then automatically fires off the email, which gets picked up by our Jira ticket handler, which then automatically assigns it to our auditor, who then comes in on Monday morning and is hey, you can't do that. Remove that access. And they're okay.
And close the ticket.
And they close the ticket and we're done, right? And so, all of that manual labor and effort is just automated. And you think about it, we actually called him, for a long time it was just three of us on the security team, just myself, my boss, and our auditor. And we always called Splunk our fourth team member. And it was we didn't hire an auditor, even though our needs grew substantially as we went after kind of different markets and different compliance objectives. We never had to hire more than one auditor until just this year, because everything we needed to do, we could do using log data. So, I mean, the value prop is right there. And I almost said Splunk again. It really doesn't matter if you use Splunk or any utility made for doing this type of data. It's not the utility that saves you. It's spending the time to set it up, get it tuned, working the way you need it to work, and making sure that your data is reliable and readable. Yes?
You looked at, does the JSON format make your logs much bigger? I mean, on your log, on the Splunk side, it's probably smart enough to compress that away, but
Absolutely.
those logs look like.
So the question was, does formatting to JSON make your logs bigger? Without a doubt. It's pretty much, I mean, it's going to make the size quite a bit larger. If your logs are typically small, they're going to about double in size, because every time you're going to log something out, you're now doing key values every single time, right? Think about your Apache logs when they just come out in the common format. It's just timestamp, URI, bytes. Well, now you're going to say like the actual field names before every single field, right? So absolutely, it's going to make your logs bigger. If you're already logging a lot of information, it's not going to make them that much bigger. And you have to do the value prop on your end, right? To say like, are my storage costs going to go up astronomically? By how much? You can always think about retention options as well too. That might slow that a little bit. Yes.
So further his question, if your developers can and should, and please push them to these custom apps, write really well delimited logs, then you wouldn't have to JSON them because you would know first field's time, and you can just build that right in Splunk in your queries and your reports and your alerts. And so you could save a lot of that JSON conversion.
Absolutely. So this gentleman just made the comment, I'm just kind of repeating for the recording, so made the comment, if you push your developers to make reliable fields, just like this field, that field, that field, you could create a map, and then when it ingests in Splunk, it's automatically going to know this field matches this matches that. Absolutely. That is absolutely 100% accurate. I find, though, generally, you don't ever want to tell your application developers, like, oh, well, before you roll out that change, I need to roll out a change on my end that can pick that up, right? That's just not going to go over well. I mean, so to my guys up here who write the software I demonstrated, would you be okay with that? Yeah, I just got 2 looks of disgust and no. That's the power, right? Is for them to be able to say, I'm going to do this, because we as security people, right, we're always just at other people's mercy all the time. And so if you can say like, application developers, here's what you're doing today, debugging that's probably terrible. Look at all the crazy stuff you could do now, where you could add extra keywords, add extra information. They're going to pick that up on their own. They're just going to be like, that's amazing. I mean, all I did was like have an example sitting out in our company, and I just like published it out there, and then people were just like losing their minds over it. And instantly, overnight, converted all of our log data in several areas to do that. And then I'm just sitting there on the back end, no one knows, and I'm just like, make that into an alert, and make that into an alert, because a lot of that stuff, is for us, it's customer-facing applications. And so as that log data improves, I'm just sitting there going, oh man, think of all the crazy alerts I can make, right? And so that's the type of value you get out of just allowing that pliability a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to comment on that too. Like the amount of times that I get comments from teams that just like, I deleted all the way I used to log, and now I have this cool new format. If I had to like be interactive in that, my job would suck so hard because I would have to be like mapping fields and stuff. And like with Splunk, there's a rename field, which I'm sure that other things have. So if your product uses IP address and his product uses IP internal address, I can just map those together in my search, and I don't have to worry about like trying to make you conform to his standards. And just be like, do whatever you want, and I'll fix it later. It'll be fine.
But it's helpful.
It is, yes, yeah. If you want to, but
we had a question back in the back here.
Yeah, so one of your examples you had up for the Squid logs, I think you said you are doing more of the help desk piece. Is that right?
No, that was actually just an example from way back in the day when I was a sysadmin at a small company. Yeah, that isn't necessarily relevant to my current work. But.
Okay, I got you. I was just wondering if you're like doing any kind of data enrichment with those specific fields.
Say that a little bit louder and one more time, sorry.
Are you doing any kind of data enrichment with some of that stuff you're finding in your access logs? Like, hey, this user agent looks shady.
Yeah, absolutely. So he said, are you doing any enrichment with like Squid logs? I can give you a real world example from not necessarily the Squid logs, but just I got a robots.txt file out there for some of our production application stuff. It's just got this path. It looks legit. It's not. If you go to that path, it just throws an error to me and says, hey, someone's looking at your stuff, right? And things like that are just nice. So you can do some enrichment just based on some of the things that you know. And again, joining data from other data sources is the most powerful thing. So take your Squid logs again. How many places can you go, pay them a little money, and they give you this huge text file of all the malware domains known to mankind, right? You can just import that into the same system here, and then cross-reference that against your Squid traffic, and you've just built in a malware detection engine in your proxy for free. Well, $5 for the text file. So like, things like that are don't let some vendor try to bend you over a barrel for $1,000 a month product when, for a lot of the basic cases, you can do it yourself. And I'm saying, you big guys out there, yeah, keep using those products. But, for the 100 and less IT shops, like 100 less employees IT shops, you can still do stuff to protect your users without breaking the bank. And there's so much power in that. So, anything else? Yes?
Put your slide link back up.
Absolutely. That is a good plan. Yep, I hit the home button and it didn't go there, so we're doing it this way. Forever. It's a Google Doc. We'll keep it up there forever. If people are like, I'm confused, can you clarify? You can. I'll enable comments or something like that on it, so that if you want to make a comment, want clarifications, we can do a little offline back and forth.
Yeah.
I'll leave the Google. Okay, one more question? Yeah, you guys can go ahead and get going. I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Okay, absolutely. Thanks all. Appreciate it. So if you want to stay and listen to the other questions, feel free.
Pack up those.